right, not the outcome Eagles fans wanted to talk about this morning.
So, yeah, we lost. And turnovers, and it was just a whole host of problems, and it was very frustrating.
So Carson Wentz went into the game as the only quarterback in the league who hadn't been intercepted at home this year, and, well, he was picked off twice. Let's get right to it. We've got a lot to talk about this morning. First of all, here's what Carson had.
It was sloppy. Plain and simple, it was sloppy. I was a little careless with the football today, and that's frustrating. I'll be the first to say I'm not happy about it, and I got to fix it. I got to look in the mirror. There's really no excuses or no other, real big issue, so to speak. We just got to take care of football.
We don't point fingers like that. We're a team, and when we win as a team. When we lose as a team, and today we lost as a team.
Eytan Shander, Fox Sports Radio. Well, the good thing Carson Wentz wasn't pointing fingers. He was pointing a finger at himself, rightfully so.
Yes, and to be fair, to Doug's point, they didn't technically lose because of a player, but they didn't lose as a team. They lost as an offense. Mm-hmm. The offense was atrocious. It was mainly because of Carson Wentz, his worst football game to date as a pro. It's okay. He's not going anywhere. They're not going to trade him. There's not going to be any trade Ben Simmons, Carson Wentz talk, but that is inexcusable. That is a microcosm of what went wrong yesterday, where even when you had something in your hands, an opportunity, you found a way to squander it. Terrible performance.
He looked lost, and I understand what you're saying. They're not going to obviously trade him, but the regression is concerning.
Yes, that is the key point. That is what I'm most upset about today. People are going to say, well, they can win out and they can show some sort of glass half full thing, but the reality is this is a deeper problem than just yesterday or last week against the Patriots. I don't know who is coaching this young man. I don't know who is telling him, hey, avoid X, Y, and Z because X, Y, and Z are causing you to turn the football over and make bad throws. His footwork has regressed. Thomas, that's probably the best point that will be said all day about Carson Wentz. Regression. It's a key concern.
Well, the defense has kept giving them so many opportunities to make plays and for the offense to move forward, and it was just so frustrating to watch the whole thing. Is anyone else totally annoyed by people celebrating when we only have 3 points on the board and everyone's in the end zone and we're sleeping on the football and we're doing all this kind of stuff? Stop posing and just get some points on the board.
I think it's definitely okay, and I'm with you, to be upset and a little off about the celebration when you're down so much. I think the deeper statement is the disconnect, where your quarterback and your offense is non-existent. Forget struggling, they're non-existent. In fact, they're the reason why you're down. And for you to celebrate, it just shows a major disconnect, I think, with this team.
Well, maybe they're celebrating because they're going to have an easier schedule, but what's your confidence level moving forward?
It's zero. Until they come out and beat the Miami Dolphins.
Yeah, but what are they? I mean, you're having guys playing that a couple of weeks ago, they were in street clothes.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah.
Jay Ajayi coming in. But here's the reality. Andre Dillard was drafted number 1 in the first round.
Yeah.
And he did not look like, he looked like a 7th round pick. They had to bench him yesterday because of the heat that was coming on. Jadeveon Clowney didn't even play for Seattle. So my confidence level that they'll beat the Dolphins, okay, I think they'll beat Miami. But will they need to win out in order to make the playoffs? They have earned zero benefit of the doubt to say, well, just win out and you're in. This is a bad football team. And to be fair, Karen, to your point about the defense, while they did play well, DK Metcalf had 3 drops. I mean, Seahawks could have put 30 points up on the board.
What changes between now and next week?
I think what changes is Carson Wentz and the offense kind of have a wake-up moment. But the reality is I'm going to say nothing. Because I have sat here week after week and tried to explain the slow starts and why they can't put up points in the first quarter. I don't think it changes. Maybe Miami. Maybe they go up against a bad Miami team and that helps something out. That's the only thing that I think changes is it's Miami.
When you figure that out, let us know.
Eytan, thank you so much.
My pleasure.
And thank you so much for waking up very early to start this holiday week. We very much appreciate it.
Always great to have you with us. Mike and Alex back after the break.
The Eagles play Washington today for a 1 o'clock road game. Birds dealing with several injuries. More names added to the out list just yesterday. Washington, though, 1-5 at home. Can that help the Eagles? Well, I don't know. Eytan Shander might be able to help them because we need someone on this roster who can play.
We need everything. Break out whatever you have at this point. Break out your rabbit's foot, break out your old helmet, break out your Donovan McNabb jersey. Whatever you have, we need it, okay? We need to ride all the momentum as humanly possible. Now, you mentioned Washington at home. The best thing the Eagles have going for them, Washington doesn't have home games. they get their stadium overtaken so much, so often, and especially when you're so close like we are to D.C., it's going to be a total takeover. So it's essentially, Lauren, going to be a home game
Eagles game
for the Philadelphia Eagles.
Okay, and speaking of that, yesterday we get an update. Nelson Aguilar out.
Everybody's out. Just out. Everybody's out. You have that list, that lists all the
long.
names?
Derek Barnett, Jordan Howard, Alshon Jeffrey, Lane Johnson. I mean, everybody is out.
Yes, and if there were one name that I would take off that list and bring back,
Is who?
Including, mind you, a guy who hasn't played in a long time in Deshaun Jackson.
I know.
It's still the best right tackle in the NFL, Lane Johnson.
Lane Johnson,
That's what really concerns me. And when I say really, though, it's what only concerns me, to be honest, is the Eagles are really more talented than the Skins. But the problem is offensive line, when you're that's your heart and soul to your offense. When you're down a guy like Lane Johnson, it's great to have backups, but he's like, oh, no, we've lost our leader.
I know. Let's talk about Monday Night Football. Carson Wentz, I think Doug Peterson said this, put on his best performance yet in that overtime win. I watched the whole game, by the way. I was so surprised I could stay up.
I'm torn by this.
I am torn too, and I want to hear more why.
Okay.
Tell me, Eytan.
The negative to that, the counter to Doug Peterson saying this was Carson Wentz's best game of his career, it's against the stinking Giants, who haven't won since week 2 of the season, that are going absolutely nowhere.
Yes.
And the Eagles are so bad themselves, they put themselves in this hole that they had to climb out of.
So maybe he should have said this is the best of the worst.
Yes, that's, oh, wow. Can we steal that? All radio and TV people that just heard that, steal that and credit Lauren for it. But no,
thank you.
The best game that I saw him ever play was 2 years ago, the one that he got hurt in L.A. against the Rams.
Yes.
And that's one of the best teams in the NFL at the time. Carson was the reason why they were even winning or in that game in the first place. And he didn't remember. He threw a touchdown with the banged up knee.
I know.
Look, that was great. I don't want to downplay anything of it, but you kind of have to beat the Giants.
I agree. I didn't think that either, but I didn't know if it was just me because, sometimes you and I have differing opinions on things.
Only about the Falcons.
But, oh, my poor Falcons. But I was like, best game of his career. Now, in 2017, he was injured. And then he was injured again last season. So Carson hasn't even gone to the playoffs.
Correct.
But we're talking about the playoffs. I don't know.
Well, anybody out there who thinks the team, this is not the NBA, okay? Let me. This is not the NBA. You can't tank in the NFL like you can in the NBA. We saw it for years with the Sixers. People think, oh, draft picks. No, the reality is you would much rather, to your point, have Carson Wentz in the playoffs than you would not. I'd much rather the Philadelphia Eagles make the playoffs, get beat 34-10, and Carson knows what it's like to go through that, than get a better draft pick from 14 to 12. No.
Agreed.
Make the playoffs.
Speaking of basketball, you brought up the NBA. Sixers still undefeated at home.
Look at that.
I know.
Look at that.
I know.
And the process versus everybody. And they not only are undefeated at home, thankfully because they knock off the Pelicans, but they handed the Celtics their first loss in Boston this year. And it came off of a comment made by a Celtics player, Jaylen Brown. They have a rookie who went 0 for 25 from three-point. Guess what they were calling him?
What?
Ben Simmons. They were making fun of the guy, calling him Ben Simmons. So they went public with this. Simmons and company heard it, and Embiid responded with a 38-point. It was one of the best. That was one of the best performances I've seen from Embiid in his career, and also from the Sixers to take it in Boston. But yeah, this is a great at home, and I know they play the Nets tonight, but at home, this is the most exciting. You can say this now, Lauren, without any hyperbole.
Yes.
This is the most exciting ticket at home in professional sports.
Oh, I like this.
There's no.
Did you see Crystal twist up her face?
Where are you going to go?
Yeah, where are you going to go?
San Francisco 40,
the Lakers.
The Lakers, get out of here. The Lakers show up. The fans don't even know the Lakers are playing until somebody tells them, hey, you know, we're playing. They actually ask the fans, what time would you like us to tip tonight?
My man is hype. One of my friends, Crystal made her appearance on our show. One of my friends sent me a message yesterday. She said, if my son wants a Sixers jersey, do I get him Simmons or Embiid? What would you pick?
Embiid. I just think Embiid is still as Ben Simmons is a star, superstar to be. But Joel Embiid, there's a reason why Charles Barkley and Shaquille O'Neal were giving constructive criticism, coaching, if you will, to Embiid. The league cares so much about Joel Embiid and him doing well. He is the face of the Sixers. So to me, it's Embiid. It's the same as Carson Wentz. He's our Carson in the NBA.
You have 30 seconds to talk about LSU, Heisman Trophy winner. I only say that because one of our directors is a huge LSU fan. But
is that why this is in here? Because PJ stuck.
Yeah, he's a little obnoxious, so we're gonna have to mention it.
Here's the thing. Why do it to those other three young men?
Yeah.
It's unfair. And look, you have to have a ceremony every year, but Joe Burrow won this thing before the SEC championship game even was played. I understand that Jalen Hurts, Justin Fields, the two other young men that were next to Joe when he stood up, had to be there for appearances, but this was one of the most dominating individual performances by a quarterback in college football, and this ceremony was just all right. Get through.
Slow clap.
Get through.
Congratulations.
Look, there's
Joe.
nothing I could say. Trust me. I
It's
want to
fine.
take a shot at LSU.
It's fine.
They'll lose to Ohio State.
We had to
Yeah,
mention
are you happy?
it, and we'll take a break, and then we can talk about it more.
Okay.
The Cowboys have gotten the best of the Eagles in their last few meetups. Many credit the play and performance of Ezekiel Elliott. Dak Prescott went all week without practice before today's big matchup. No matter who plays on either side of the ball, it's do or die for the Eagles today. Eytan Shander here to discuss. I hear
I forgot
the
about
entire locker room is like rallying around Carson Wentz.
Yeah, I get it, rightfully so. But let's not lose sight here. Outside of like a couple of idiots who call radio shows and one or two people you might run into at your local grocery store, 95% of the city has been behind Carson Wentz.
Mm-hmm.
Even you have come around. I feel like someone. Oh, can we get that face? You did that on purpose, knowing we would go to the highlight, making that face. Unbelievable. I like the fact that they're rallying, and if it works for them, it's like the boxer.
Okay, here's
right?
the deal, though.
I get that.
These fumbles, though.
Oh, they're terrible.
Yo.
Terrible. And I don't know what to do because the guy that got it right is no longer here, and John DeFilippo, the former quarterbacks coach, who worked with him a lot. But this goes back to Carson coming out of college.
Oh, I thought you meant the guy who got it right was Nick Foles because he took us to the Super Bowl. I didn't know what you meant. I got you, though. I'm following you.
On Dallas Day.
I'm following you. I didn't understand what you meant.
Dallas Day.
I'm following you now.
Oh, what an omen right there.
Here's the question. Who's playing? I know Nelson
Nobody.
Aguilar's still hurt, right?
Aguilar's out. But
Yeah.
here's the reality is I don't know where Aguilar's head is. A lot of people don't know where his head is.
Yeah.
So while he does provide something, I don't necessarily know if the team is better with him on the field.
Right.
What they've been able to do, a lot of people are out. The biggest question on offense outside of Lane Johnson, who looks like won't play, is J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, who now looks like he won't play. So if J.J. doesn't play, now you're down to Greg Ward and Robert Davis as your two wide receivers, Lauren.
This is next man up. Isn't that what they always say in that locker room? I feel like people should just go down to the link today and put on
the
jerseys
jersey?
and stand on the sideline because, jeez.
Well,
last night,
if
by
you
the
could
way,
play right tackle, we'd use you.
we can use you. Darren Sproles says he's done.
Yes, retired. And look, the last couple of years we've seen it. He's gone out, he's competed, but his body just hasn't held up.
15 years.
It's amazing for a guy that size
Yes.
to be able to run, catch, and return the way that Darren Sproles has done. I think he's a Hall of Famer. I can't say for certain.
Right.
But the way in which he was more than just a return guy. And look, another thing is he was a spark on the field.
Right.
2 Super Bowl rings. Clearly, you can see what he meant to the Philadelphia
Yeah.
Eagles, even when they were down. But he's not playing. So he's another guy that the Eagles can't rely on. Boston Scott, to segue,
Yeah.
it could be a huge day for Boston
Yeah.
Scott and Miles Sanders. And you mentioned Dak's shoulder, too. Here's the thing.
I hear these guys came to town yesterday and went to Del Frisco's and got booed by a bunch of Eagles fans.
Good.
I also heard, I forget, was it Dak or was it
Zeke.
that said some
Said,
bad
get that
words?
out of my face.
Yes!
Yeah, get that bleep out of my face.
Talking to a camera person
Right.
at one of the local TV stations. Isn't that what the camera people do, though?
Yeah.
You're
well,
doing your job.
That's how you know. This whole thing, right? Ezekiel Elliott, I think he's just trying to prop himself up. Like Brandon Brooks and the Eagles are propping Carson Wentz up. Ezekiel Elliott, nobody's in his face.
Yeah.
Nobody, wherever he goes, he's a storyline. People talk about him, but this is not like TMZ following him around everywhere. The
Correct.
paparazzi following him around.
Hey, Zeke, if you're in your hotel room this morning, bruh, Calm down. Calm down. Okay, let's talk about the Sixers. Man, Isaiah Thomas got mad at some fans last night.
Hey, fans come to the game for Frosties. All right? And if you're going to take away a Frosty, then I think there's two things here, right?
Right.
The comedic element of it is hilarious because the fan is just going off, and the whole thing about the Frosty in its own right is ridiculous, right?
Yes.
However, the other element of it is, yes, it's funny because it happened here and there was nothing going on. But again, the bigger question always is, are fans too close to NBA players? We're not seeing, this is not Malice in the Palace, anything like that. And I don't think Isaiah Thomas truly did anything wrong, per se, because at some point, when you're that close, something's going to, we saw it with Russell Westbrook 2 years ago where a fan got ejected here in Philadelphia.
Right.
It's too much and too close. You just have to understand that at some point, and hopefully it doesn't take an incident way worse than this.
Yes.
At some point, that safety is going to have to be addressed. But back to the comedic element of it. Isaiah with the sad face after in the locker room saying, oh, he wanted a Frosty. It was pretty funny.
I know, it was.
You're going to get your Frosties, all right?
Game time, 4 p.m. You ready?
I'm ready, but I've been on record here on Friday 2 times over saying 27-21 Dallas.
All right, quick break. We'll be right back. Woo.
Andy Reid had a good day yesterday. He won his 222nd game. It's his second Super Bowl ring, and he did it on the second day of the second month. Andy Reid has a Super Bowl ring.
And it was 02-02-2020.
2020.
Yeah.
The stars aligned.
Eytan Shander was down there all week long. Nice to have you back. How are you?
It's great to be back here in Philadelphia. I don't know why I ever left Philly to go to Miami.
You know why? You bought that shirt.
I did. Yeah, this is as Hawaiian as I'll get for Andy Reid. Sorry, it's a little drab and gray, but this is the Philadelphia Hawaiian shirt.
Alex is with us too. She was there.
Hi, Alex.
Got into the Super Bowl yesterday. So let's talk about the game itself, Eytan.
Yes.
There was good Mahomes, and we started with bad Mahomes.
Yeah.
And then went great Mahomes.
We started with suspect Mahomes, and I think Andy Reid didn't really do much to help Patrick Mahomes out in the first half. It was way too conservative for a guy in Reid who we know will love to let it go and throw the football. I was shocked that it took an entire half for Patrick Mahomes to really stretch the field, and I don't know why. There was no real reason or justification for that. Andy Reid won the Super Bowl, and this is not to downplay or wet blanket it, but they needed some pretty big training wheels with Steve Spagnuolo's defense on one side, tightening up in the second half, and Mahomes really bailing out that bad offense in the first half.
What was the feeling in the first half, Alex, down there in the stadium? Were Chiefs fans, I know they were pumped early, were they getting concerned?
Well, in the beginning, they had someone say, okay, we want to get, a test to see how many 49ers fans are here, how many Chiefs fans are here.
Right.
And the Chiefs fans really outweighed the 49ers fans. But then they got a little quiet. So it was pretty quiet, especially when things weren't going so well. And I think they were focusing. But obviously that turned around. But it really says a lot. If the fan base was stronger, but they were quieter for a while, I think everybody was pretty worried.
Especially in the third quarter when the 49ers go up 20-10.
Right, and that's where you think, okay, we've seen this before where Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs have come back 2 straight games, but the 49ers, that I think was the biggest shock, is that the Niners relinquished the lead. This defense all year.
Awesome.
When you're up 7-10 points, it's near, I was going to say impossible, but we saw yesterday that proves otherwise, near impossible to beat them. Chiefs are the one team that's done it.
Well, Shanahan was taking some heat about giving up so many points.
So. Shanahan pulled an Andy Reid.
Yeah.
What was he doing at the end of the first half?
Time management.
He had time, correct.
Everyone was screaming about that. You couldn't figure out what was going on. Like, well, what does he know that we don't know?
The only thing I could think of was he did not call that first timeout because he wanted to run the ball. And he wanted to have 3 timeouts so that he could stop the clock. But then, even when they had a big play, by circumstance, Kyle Shanahan deserves to get ripped.
There's his boss saying, call a timeout.
Timeout.
I don't know if we've ever seen that before,
where
you've seen a complete disconnect, where you have the general manager, who has played the game at an all-pro level, mind you, yelling and demanding a timeout, and Kyle Shanahan just completely Andy Reid'd that.
Why doesn't Damian Williams get the MVP?
I don't know.
Because he's not a superstar name?
I thought the same thing. They love giving it to the quarterback, and Damian Williams was the lifeblood for this offense. Outside of Tyreek Hill and that huge 44-yard catch that bypassed a holding call, Damian Williams was gigantic, and that right there ended the game. I agree with you, Mike. I thought Damian Williams should be the MVP, but they'll never give it to a non-quarterback unless a defender wins it.
Where were you standing? You were rooting for Andy or no?
I was rooting for Steve Spagnuolo.
Okay.
All right? I was rooting for Spags first and foremost. Look, there's a guy who was out of the league last year. He was here locally. He's one of us. Yes, Andy Reid. We all love Andy Reid, but I just want to make sure we get Spags out there as well.
All right, let's have Chiefs-Eagles next year in Tampa. How's that sound?
I think that's doable. Look,
I
the
do
Chiefs
too.
aren't going anywhere. All right? That Patrick Mahomes kid is going to win at least 2 more.
Young
And if
team.
I'm Andy Reid, I'm not going anywhere either.
Thanks, Eytan. Alex, give us a little tease about, give me just one superstar that you saw down there in Miami.
The Sixers will host the Chicago Bulls at 7 o'clock tonight at the Wells Fargo Center. This before facing the New York Knicks tomorrow at MSG. The team coming off a much-needed win against the Grizzlies on Friday after losing 4 straight away games in the last week. General Manager Elton Brand says the team is disappointed in how they've played lately, and they are working to fix that. Eytan Shander here to break it all down. Here's the deal. I was at the Bud and Maryland's in the airport on Thursday after a nightmarish day of delays, and all I could see on ESPN, the supers at the bottom were just like, Sixers lose on the road, Sixers struggle, Sixers stink.
Yeah, it was everywhere. It was a national story.
What's up?
Former basketball, Charles Barkley, Shaquille O'Neal, to national media. Everybody's coming down on the Sixers.
What's wrong? And I asked Eytan, I said, how can this team be good but still be losing on the road? And your response is?
I think that there is so much pressure at home,
Yeah.
good and bad.
Okay.
And it's so easy to be distracted on the road. Look, it's like right now in the studio with all the pizza and me trying to do this segment. This is torture, just so you know this right now.
So you think it's distractions on the road
I
or
think-
not having the Philly fans?
Correct. Here's a quick skinny of it.
Okay.
When you're at home in Philadelphia playing in front of that crowd,
Yes.
playing basketball, not even Eagles, Flyers, and just we're talking about Sixers.
Yes.
You know that at any given moment you're going to experience love that you'll never experience on any other court in the NBA if you do well, or the opposite. That's
I was
right.
going to say it works both ways.
But that can flip. It can go as fast as this segment
Yes.
to where we can start, and then 6 minutes later they're booing you.
Yeah.
So there is that motivation to where you have to come out and show the crowd that you can do it, and then the crowd responds. When you're on the road, you don't have that.
Yes.
There is nothing like that that generates that momentum and that energy.
Okay.
So you have to coach, you have to play, you have to be mentally in games late, and they're not. And I think that's the biggest issue. Mentally, they're either checked out or they don't have the strength to stay in these games late on the road. And it doesn't matter who they play.
So from a business move, the Sixers office needs to offer some packages for fans to travel with the team.
Wouldn't be a bad
so
idea.
they play well.
Wouldn't be a bad idea. Now, how much would you think it would cost to StubHub a couple of rows? Right?
Listen, if you're trying to get wins, you pay. You got to pay to play, is what they say.
D.C., New York,
The close-
Boston,
yeah.
all close areas, right? And then you
Do
start to
it.
spread out. If it's a big game in Indiana, hey,
Let's
we
do
can get
it.
out there.
Let's do it.
Philadelphians travel better than anybody.
They do. Joel, is he playing tonight?
He
Questionable?
Is, yes,
he is?
Yeah, he'll play.
Okay.
He'll be back. Chicago comes to town. They stink. So that's a good feeling right now. Memphis is not a great team. They're at the back end of the playoffs in the West, but they've got this kid, John Morant. Chicago comes in, and they're terrible. So the good news is, A, you're at home, and you get to breathe in front of this crowd. You're going to go up against a significantly worse team. So the expectation should meet reality, where they come out on the floor and they handle Chicago. Joel Embiid will play. He might not play 35, 40 minutes, but he'll play enough, over 20, 25 minutes. He's fine at the moment.
Okay. Eagles announced some coaching staff changes this week, and they're going to forego an offensive coordinator. Doug Peterson already makes all the big calls already, right? So is this really a good move?
Here's the thing. Nobody knows. And the reason why nobody knows, Lauren, is because this is all predicated on what happened last year. The offense sputtered. The offense in the first half mainly did not click. What's the reason why? Was it because they were missing 15 people a week? How many times did I come on here every Sunday and say, I can't even go through the list of who's injured because there are too many?
And we would always say we should go through who's actually healthy.
Right, that's the point. So is it that? Is it the fact that you lost guys every single week and that hurt your offense? Or was it the coaching? The guys they fired? We don't know.
It's hard to know.
Exactly. And this move was based off it being the coaching. And I don't think it's fair to assume that it was the coaching last year, despite the offense sputtering, when you're down 10, 12 guys a week. It's going to be interesting to see. It's worked out in San Francisco.
Okay.
Kyle Shanahan will be the coach of the year, most likely in the NFL. Total control, autonomy of the playbook. Doug did it last year, but there were some problems.
Right. So we have to see what the controlled variable is here. So we'll know at the end of the season.
Oh, he's the control variable.
We'll see.
He's the one.
Injuries, coaches.
Right.
Yeah.
But somebody needs to be able to say, hey, Doug, don't do that.
Right.
Don't
to check
do
him.
that.
Okay.
Right. You need to be able to check him, because if nobody's checking him, he's going to run wild.
Right. Phillies, they packed up all the equipment, which is always fun to go down there and see them like maneuver all the stuff. And then spring training starts on Tuesday.
Yes. This is all about the arms, all about the pitching here. We know that they didn't go out and get significantly better with bats. You bring back guys like Bryce Harper. JT Realmuto is going to be a gem here, best catcher in baseball. You can make that argument every day. It's about pitching. It's about the starting pitching right now and whether or not they're able to go out and get another arm before the regular season begins or in that first stretch of the regular season. They got Zach Wheeler, but we've had this conversation. Zach Wheeler's not an ace. He's a 3, really, is where you want him. He'll be a 2 this time. Jake Arrieta, got a lot of money attached to him. We don't really know what's going to happen there as far as the season he's going to have. Aaron Nola needs to come out and be dominant.
Okay.
And then it kind of falls into place a little bit, but the biggest concern is pitching. I don't think they're going to be better than the 3rd team in the NL East this year. I hope I'm wrong.
Okay.
I hope.
Eytan wants me to be really excited because the XFL.
Yeah, why not?
Well, it's on Fox, so that's exciting for us.
That's huge. And it was a great day yesterday.
I was going to say, aside from it being on Fox, why else would I be excited about it?
Because it's a different brand of football that's not trying to be a carbon copy of the NFL. That's what the AAF that's now out did last year and failed. It's a completely different brand. It's fun. There's a lot of offense. And for all the people in Pennsylvania, $1.5 billion worth of those who bet on sports, nobody knows, including the people that set the odds, nobody knows what's going on. So if you have any idea about football and you're watching, you can make some money here.
Let's do it then.
So from entertainment to money, are you convinced?
I'm convinced.
All right,
you
there
sold
we go.
me.
And now
quick break. It is, almost. We'll be right back.
All right, Kristen Rogers and Eytan Shander from Fox Sports Radio, The Gambler, joining me for the debate. Let's start with this NFL proposal. So the report here, just in case people at home don't know, the NFL is expected to get rid of one preseason game, add a regular season game, and add one more playoff team in each conference, making it 14 total teams in the postseason. Kristen, I mean, more than half the teams. This is a watered-down playoff system if I've ever seen one, Kristen.
Yeah, Jason, and there's one thing from that proposal that really stands out to me, and that it's per conference, only one team will get a bye instead of the number 1 and the number 2 teams getting a bye. Now, going back to 1975 when the NFL first introduced those seedings, 71 teams since then have made the Super Bowl as a 1 or a 2 seed in a large part because of those byes. Only 17 teams that weren't a 1 or 2 team since 1975 have made the Super Bowl. And again, it's because you don't get that first week off. It's really tough. So now that we're going to only one team potentially getting a bye week in that first round of the playoffs, that stands out to me as going to be crazy to watch because everyone's going to fight for it.
Look, I love it. I think we've added more value now to the 1 seed. Home field advantage is earned in the regular season. You're going to see more value applied to the final week of the season if it's 17 or 18 weeks. And here's another thing. There's this fear that we're going to be allowing 7 and 9 teams and all these bad. You can go back in the history of the league, and if you applied this rule retro, not one 7 and 9 team would be in. You'd have an 8 and 8 team, but let's be honest. We're at a point right now of NFL parity where there really isn't that much difference between an 8 and 8 team and a 10 and 6 team. I know normally that's, whoa, you're talking about 2 different wins, but the way in which the NFL is designed, Parity means 7-9, 8-8, 9-7. You're pretty much all in the same spot.
And we're all going to let's be honest, we're all going to watch Wild Card Weekend.
Yeah, you can now get 6 games on Wild Card Weekend. Everyone wants to see it, but that means a lot more money for the NFL.
And that's what I think people are saying this is all about. Obviously, I mean, this could be more money for players too, as well. I mean, as far as their contract situation,
well,
franchise tags.
Actually, I saw somewhere that with that 17th game, players would be getting 1 paycheck, but that would actually be less because they're capped off at about $250,000. So players might actually be taking a pay cut on that 17th game.
For the regular season, but the playoffs, now you actually have a bonus coming your way. So if you're looking at playing, it might even itself out to where you get a playoff bonus, but you might take a pay cut for that final game.
Best part of this, by the way, guys, you get rid of some of the one game in the preseason, which seems to be eternal.
Good.
I know.
We can all agree on that one. It's got to go.
To the Sixers now, Eytan. I've been seeing a love fest on social media between Embiid and Simmons. Is this the start of chemistry? What's going on?
Let's hope so, because this team, health is the biggest question right now moving forward. And they're in a position, honestly, where they can't afford to start resting guys down the stretch. They have to play better on the road. There's going to be a lot of pressure at home, including tonight. You have to beat the bad teams, but coming down the stretch, the health of Joel Embiid, Ben Simmons expected to be out tonight, the health of Ben Simmons, you can't kind of afford to coast into the playoffs as a 2 or 3 seed because you haven't been able to win on the road. That's a big question right now, is their health.
Yep. Brett Brown says that he wants to see one thing in these last 27 games, and it is a crystallized starting 5. Remember, last year, this starting 5 didn't have a lot of time together, and we saw that in the playoffs. Now, hopefully, they'll try to accomplish that in these last 27 games. But this team thinks they can flip a switch come the playoffs. Now's the time to start flipping that switch.
I don't think that switch exists with this team, Eytan. I don't know. Are they that talented where they can flip a switch?
Here's the thing. We haven't seen a team like this in professional sports maybe ever, to where they are night and day, the complete polar opposite on the road and home. So yes, there's something, Jason, there at home. We can't deny that there is something in their DNA where they are one of the best teams in the NBA. But something happens when they leave this arena, they leave Philadelphia, and to your point, that switch doesn't exist on the road. You're going to get knocked out of the first round if you don't have home court advantage the way the Sixers are playing right now.
No doubt.
Eytan and Kristen, thank you very much.
Thank you.